I'm with Jon Hare. Can you tell our viewers your background within the game industry?
Yeah, I've been making games since 1985, which is nearly 30 years now. It's quite strange. I started off as a 19-year-old actually making games. I was unemployed at the time, and I started working with a friend of mine. I was in a band with him. We were at school together, and we'd been playing music for a few years together, writing music for about 3 years. And he taught himself to program, got a programming job. I helped him with some art. I got an art job. We spent a year working for a company quite local to us, which was good. And most people need this little start. And but we worked out that they were taking 85% of the money and we were doing 100% of the work. So within a year, we'd set our own company up, which was called Sensible Software. It's quite a well-known games company. We set it up in 1986, and we eventually in 1999 the company stopped. And in that space, we had about 7 #1 games, not only in the UK but all across Europe. We never really did so much in the States, but in Europe we were very successful. So I'm used to designing games. I'm mainly a game designer and I do game business. And I learnt the business very painfully over many years, you know. I started off as just an artist, designer kind of guy. When we sold that company, I then started consulting for a bunch of different companies. Notably, I worked in Codemasters. I did a lot of consulting with smaller companies on game design and business, depending on who it was. I've worked with Jagex. I worked with a company called Nikotova in Ukraine for many years, and I set up my own company in 2004 called Hare Studios with some of my friends from the Bitmap Brothers. I've since taken on the company more or less on my own, but that company, the main focus is on mobile games. So certainly for the last 4 years, my main focus has been on like iPhones and these kind of things. So that's me so far.
I see, thank you. I hear that you worked as a game artist and written music for games. Would you share your experience with these two different roles?
Yeah, certainly. So at the start of my career, when I was 19, I was mainly the artist and the co-designer. So we were just a two-man team, me doing the art, my friend doing the programming, and between us designing bits of the game, working together. And I did all the art and the old Sensible Software games on the Commodore 64, like Whizball, Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, Parallax, Micro Soccer. This is all my art. And even with WizKid and Sensible Soccer, which is our best known game, again, this is my art. When we got to Cannon Fodder, that's the first game when we used a different artist. So as an artist, I'm a 2D artist. Even today, if I do design documents, and I do tons of them, or I'm working with the development team, I use paint to do my part, to show people what I intend to do, how to lay something out, you know, these kind of things, because a lot of design work is about communicating in words and pictures, and talking a lot as well, and doing lots of Excel tables. So that's a designer's work if you want to do it, and a bit of maths. In terms of music, I'm a musician before I'm a game maker. So I've been making music since I was about 15, 16, and I'm a songwriter. So I've been writing songs. I've written over 200 songs in my life now. Now I'm 48, so this is like 32 years later. You build up lots of songs over time if you take a long time to do it. We've been very lucky with our music at Sensible Software. We used to have Martin Galway writing all our music for our Commodore 64 games. He's, in my opinion, the best musician on the Commodore 64. Did some great things with the SID chip, and him and a number of other pioneers like Ben Daglish and Rob Hubbard turned this into a kind of an instrument in its own right. When we switched to the Amiga, the machines got capable of doing more like weird no music. It's not just bleeps and weird noises. And I worked with a very talented musician called Richard Joseph on the Amiga times, who was, again, did all the music for the Bitmap Brothers, various other teams, one of the top musicians of the Amiga certainly. And basically I would, sometimes he wrote our music, but on some of the games like on Cannon Fodder, Sensible Soccer, Sensible Golf, these titles, Cannon Fodder 2 and SWAS and stuff, I got in the habit of writing music, like writing a tune. So literally that means I'm a guitarist, singer-songwriter, yeah? So, bit of guitar, bit of melody and some words, a bass line, go to Richard's house, sit down, and he'd turn it into a masterpiece and arrange it really well. And we'd add horns and we'd add different bits to, you know, keyboards to bring it to life. So, to me, this has always been a fantastic and very lucky part of my career. And actually, last Sunday, so 1 week ago, I went to a retro show in Warsaw, and I did my first ever gig as a games artist, because I've done lots of gigs with different bands, but I was just me and a guitar doing an unplugged version of like 12 songs, and most of them are like old sensible hits like War's Never Been So Much Fun and Girl Sawing Superstar Hero and stuff, which was, for me, was, as a musician, was amazing to have people singing along with my music. You know, this doesn't happen to many people, so it was a brilliant experience, I got to say. So I hope I can do that again sometime.
Thank you, that sounds fantastic. What would you say are the notable differences when working for a company that's your own company and for working with large companies?
Well, there's pros and cons. So when you're running your own company, I work a lot with students. I work with many different universities at the moment, and a lot of people I speak to are in startups. And at this kind of stage in your career, you want to do your own thing. And we were at that stage for a long time. For a long time I've run my own companies. And the advantage of that situation is you can do what you want. You're the master of your own destiny, your own boss. You're controlling. If you've got the whole development team that you own, or that you pay, or that you work with, or you're partners with, you're controlling everything. The downside, as the company gets bigger and more successful, is you need to staff up, and then a lot of your time is spent on management, and when you're managing the money side, that means your monthly burn, the amount you need to earn each money to pay everybody, goes up and up and up, becomes more of a focus and more of a stress, which means sometimes creatively you need to make some poor decisions to economically keep things right, okay? But you still get to ultimately control most things in a good setup, working with good publishing partners, distribution partners, etc. So there's pros and cons to both sides. And the company...
USA!
Thank you. On the company side, if you're working for a company, I worked with Codemasters for many years. It was quite good. I worked as a consultant designer. I worked with them on a few games like Prince Nassim Boxing and Mike Tyson Boxing. I worked on a version of Sensible Soccer, but at this time I wasn't controlling the development as well. Me and my friend were controlling the development, so you have less control over the day-to-day stuff. Our staff are paid, how hard they're working. You get kind of more remote control than direct control in that situation, and it takes a long while to adapt to that creatively. Because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so sometimes I struggle to not. If you can balance the contracts with your staff internally with creative control, you can have a very powerful relationship working with them. I'm talking about power both ways. So they're going to get loads of money because you've made in their contract, they make loads of money if the game's successful, then you can push everything really hard, and to me that's the best way to work. That's not how most corporate structures don't work like that. Most people are worried about going home at a reasonable hour and stuff. That's not how I think, and that's not how most amazing games get made by small teams. Amazing games are made by small teams by people bleeding for the game. That's the only way it happens. So with a company perspective, you need to learn to distance yourself, which took me a while, and I learned it in Codemasters. For example, we started Cannon Fodder 3, but we never finished it because they wanted to divert their staff to other projects. They canned a lot of projects at that time. They sold a studio, which Cannon Fodder 3 is being made in Fulham, and I just had to go, okay. I mean, it's heartbreaking creatively, but you just got to let it go, So that's the downside. The upside is you're not paying the staff, and if you've got a good deal, you're getting paid very well by the people who are paying you. So financially, it's less stress, but you've got less creative control. And ultimately, if you make your own game and see it to the end, like with Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder and stuff, we made a lot more money out of it as well in the long term. So there's pros and cons. And I worked with Jagex for a while. That was hard because Jagex are a very big company. Their corporate control is very tight. They tried to introduce me to the management system, but they found it hard to accommodate me because I'm quite a dominant character in a games environment, and they were quite a closed company actually, and I think they found it hard to adapt to having another person there and so quickly letting them into so much of the company. I worked with a company called Nikitova for years in Ukraine, and I managed the production there, which was fun because they were mostly an outsourcing company with a development arm. And so I helped them build their game development arm. We did deals with different people to get licenses in. We worked on the Wii and the DS, and just getting the development staff there to think in a different way of making games in Ukraine, which isn't at the time, certainly we're talking 8 years ago now, wasn't a regular development country. So we're transporting skills from the UK out there. Yeah, so that's it. They're my main experiences with bigger companies. I've done lots of consulting little jobs as well. But, there's over a career of 30 years, I think I've made about 70 games. I think I've been the lead designer in about 50 or odd games now. So, and sometimes just doing, sometimes leading the design, but sometimes doing something different, like just there to finish off a game, not even making a game I want, just functioning to finish something properly, Sometimes in a career in games, there's so much variety over a long period of time. And what I would say the most important thing for someone who really thinks they want to spend their life making games is be prepared to adapt. I've worked for myself in 2 companies. One is a mobile company with hardly any employees, outsourcing development. One with lots of people working inside and Sensible. I've been a consultant. I've worked for developers. I've worked for publishers. I've worked for backers. I've worked as a big part of big companies like Codemasters and Jagex. I've worked on every different sort of game you could imagine. Sports games, shooting games, God games, construction games. So in the long term for a career, you must be prepared to be adaptable. And the amount of formats I've worked on, I started on Spectrum, Commodore 64, Amiga, ST, Amstrad, PC, NES, SNES, PlayStation 1, Xbox, iPhone, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on.
What are you most looking forward to in terms of the future for video games?
Well, what I look forward to most of all, I think at the moment, we've got business people controlling games. So at one end, we've got very high budget AAA games for like $200-300 million budgets that are beyond all of us to get that money together. 9 times out of 10, they're sequels of existing games. Of course, they can make very big money. But realistically, unless you want to go and work as a small cog in a studio in Canada, you're probably not going to be part of making those games. So the flip side is smaller games that many people are making. And the real challenge for people now is forging a career. So it's very nice when you're starting your career to think, oh, it's great, I want to make a game, I want to come to the party, I want to get my name on the door so everyone knows who I am, which is great. But for a life, you need to pay for your house, pay for a car, if you've got a family, look after those, pay for your food and security and stuff like this. And a long-term ability to generate money and survive is a real issue at the moment for people. And at the moment, a lot of smaller games company stuff is set up largely for people who are students or people just starting out on their way that maybe are easily sucked into a method of producing games which doesn't maybe suit them in the long term. So what I hope for the future of games is that the middle bracket of games, which is virtually non-existent at the moment, comes back. So what we've got at the moment with basically with the App Store and with a number of different, the Android store and to a certain extent things on PSN and also on Steam, it's a good way for a lot of companies to make their name and to start out. But if you take the App Store as an example, what I hope happens, I think what will happen, is that we need some of these good teams to be able to just stand out from the crowd, not be sucked into this sea of apps, 1,000 coming out a day and just disappear. I don't think the entertainment industry traditionally likes that. The entertainment industry likes stars. It likes good people they can rely on to produce good stuff again. And we know that at Sensible Software we had a good run. We had a lot of hit games for about 8 years in the spin. And the industry responded well to that. And we weren't the only people to do it at the time. There were many people to do it in the UK and also in the US and Japan. I think that the current industry is either about massive corporations or individual games. And I hope what happens to the future industry, and I think it will happen because it's happened in every other entertainment medium after time, is that the good name people, but without the access to the $300 million budgets, get enough money from publishing companies coming back who start to steal the space which is emerging between throwaway free-to-play games, which in some cases in my opinion, and this is very harsh, but it's a bit like taking a scribble a 5-year-old's done at school and sticking it in an art gallery and saying it can stand alongside the Mona Lisa. That's what the App Store actually does at the moment, and in my opinion that's wrong, and I think the public is starting to get tired of that. I think it's starting to become, yeah, that was cool a while ago, but really, you know, we need our great art, we need our great stars, we need to really believe in something, and we need something alternative and fresh from great titles like Call of Duty and Battlefield and FIFA, and we know all these titles, they are great, but they are a bit stale now, and they're a bit old, and we've seen it before, and I think that the demand will come from the public, and we need a financial model and a marketing model to facilitate that again, so we can get back to having, as all entertainment industries have had over time, publishing companies or production companies making stuff happen and backing good artists to create that.
Thank you so much for your answers. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.